actually is a natural consequence of a deep relationship with Baba. And if people say they really love Baba a lot, but I'm so delicate, so sensitive, so affected, I don't think the relationship with Baba is that strong, really. I think the more you're pulled into that deep relationship, it's like you're pulled beyond influences. We're all on a learning curve with this, a huge learning curve, but I feel at this time to be deeply detached is essential to survive in this world. But Baba's detachment, and I keep emphasizing because I don't know what it's like in German, in Deutsch, but in English, detachment doesn't sound sweet.
No.
It sounds cut off, disconnected. So I call it loving and detached, or detached involvement. You're involved, you're connected, but you're not being influenced. This is one of the biggest learning curves, yeah.
And would you
also call it empathy, but what does empathy say? You get empathetic about someone, or just you are really detached, but empathy in order to understand.
Yeah, it's such a good question because, Baba said once, to be truly loving, you can say empathetic, you have to be detached. Because when you're loving and empathetic, you can love people and detached. You can love people when they're good and you can love them when they're not so good. Look at Baba. Baba's completely detached. So he loves us regardless of our behavior. And in a sense, I think those great souls who've really developed their stage, a lot of the daddies and others, they're genuinely loving and detached even, and empathetic to what you're going through, why perhaps your behavior is not appropriate, not so much judgmental, but merciful. Absolutely, yeah. I think so.
And Charlie, isn't it an old sanskar, this taking in sorrow, an old Christian sanskar, that is a main value to absorb sorrow, I feel.
I think it's a human sanskara myself. I think my experience is, as I said, most of us are experts at taking sorrow. And if there's not sorrow, we'll find someone. We'll find them somewhere. I mean, really, sometimes we're so programmed. We're programmed to be hurt, programmed to get upset, programmed to be disturbed. And I think that, yeah, it's true though what you say, that it's.
I think it's a value, like tries to absorb the sorrow of the world.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yes, it's true. And you were going to ask something, yeah.
You just spoke about taking sorry as sorrow, and taking and giving, and that connection for me means balance. So what about forgiveness? What about forgiveness as when there's somebody I react. So I should start forgiving myself for reaction.
Yeah.
And this is a step for me to come into the state of detachment.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that, forgiveness, I think, clears mental accounts. What I think is that we develop these mental accounts with different people. In other words, karmically, my mind goes to a person, I think about their behavior, I think what they've said to me. Or I've done something that's hurt our relationship. So I feel bad about it, and I have this mental account. And I think power to forgive is such a great power, because it's sort of, it's like letting go of pain, because the longer I hold on to, I think it's my ego that can't forgive, actually. It's my ego. To me, forgiveness is letting go all the conditions in my mind that stop me being loving. Because each time I can't forgive, oh, you did that, I can't forgive you. You did that, I can't forgive you. You suppress your love. Nothing makes you healthier emotionally, mentally, spiritually when you're loving. And what you said, to be able to forgive yourself is one of the great acts, because we're experts at punishing ourselves. Really punishing myself. We love it sometimes, just to really punish myself. How can we forgive? Sometimes I feel, when you feel so close to Baba, you feel loved by Baba, you just, whether it's another person, think, what does it matter? Why am I holding on to this situation? Because I punish myself when I do it. Or even with the self. Why keep punishing myself? It's when I get that love and experience and power from Baba, to free myself from this game of self-punishment, self-disapproval. I honestly feel for me, the biggest obstacle in this journey is my relationship with myself, my vision on myself. And even long-term Brahmins, we are attached to a limited negative vision on myself. And sometimes I think, Baba sees me like this, I see myself like that. Have I really recognized who's teaching me? It's my duty to step out of this limited view of myself. Sometimes we say, oh, I'm being honest because that's what I'm like, but that's what I'm like in the present. My original and true state is something much greater. And I feel this story of the yajna is an amazing story. These young women who were like hardly educated really stepped into their own Baba's vision. Baba saw them as world transformers. And they had the courage to step out of the addiction to, I'm not good enough, I'm weak, I can't be like this, I don't know. And step into God's vision. That's what the daddies have really done. And it's, the biggest obstacle in this life is my own vision on me. Some people have so many waste thoughts about somebody else's vision on me. They're an obstacle, they gossip about me, they say this, and we have so much. It's nothing like my own vision on myself. It's usually much harsher and much worse, the way we look at ourselves in that way.
Mindful, you were mentioning that it's very much my experience as well in relationship with self. And so also when it comes to this demand, have good wishes and pure feelings for others, when I was encountering this demand, I have not led to the approach I have to start with self first.
Yes.
Pure feelings and good wishes for this.
Yeah.
When I worked on that for years, actually loved my relationships, but it very much had to start with self, this thing.
It's absolutely true.
Saying for others, it's threatening them so much.
Because it clears our mental accounts with other people. It's like sometimes I think we want to go to Baba and we get stuck in the gravity of our feelings about people, how they've treated me, what they've said to me, what's going on in the center, or how people are. And good wishes clears that mental account, because really the fundamental Srimat of Baba is to forget the body and the relations of the body. And so when my mind is relentlessly analyzing people and why they are like they are, why they behave, why they do this, why they shouldn't do this, and that's thinking about people. It's like I'm stuck in I can't remember Baba at that point. But when you have good wishes, and how can you do that? You know, I think when you really, really go deep, that each soul has an eternal, imperishable, unchanging part. If I don't accept it now, when am I going to accept it? Even my own part. If I fight my own part all the time, I don't like my part. I wish my part was. Actually, each one of us has a beautiful part. But because we see other people, we sometimes get competitive or jealous of other people's parts. But, you know, it's so deep. We are in an eternal game, and each one of us has an indelible part. If I don't accept it now, when am I ever going to accept it? And I've just found for me now, no matter what's going on, I will try to do something positive. But if I can't, I accept. And recently, you know, I had a few years ago an experience where I was allowing someone's behavior to affect me. And, you know, you have those thoughts. And I really felt it was like I was building resistance in my mind. You know, you build a wall of resistance, which is disapproval or dislike or criticism. And I could see it. It has such an effect on your stage, and the other person gets this vibration from you. And I had such a I just let it go, just in a few seconds. I was saying, why am I doing this? I could not believe how light I felt. And now whenever I'm finding I'm building resistance in my head to someone or their behavior or their part or what they're doing or their opinions, I consciously remove the resistance that I've built up. So you just begin to accept. Now, sometimes behavior is not appropriate, but what can you do? What can you do? I think we're at a time in the cycle, there's so much variety in our world and so much variety in the Brahmin family. And I think if we can accept each other, that's the highest service in the sense that we're all different, we're all unique. We are all Baba's children, but if we accept each other, that creates such an incredible atmosphere, amazing atmosphere. And how can I accept other people? It's what you're saying, you first have to accept yourself. I find if you're struggling to accept certain personalities, why? I haven't accepted myself first. When you really, I mean, ultimately, this life is ultimately to accept myself, feel comfortable in my own skin, enjoy my own part. To me, this is self-realization.
You mentioned that we have to spend eternity with ourselves. That's so.
Yeah.
What kind of relationship do they want to experience with us?
That's right. Sorry, Carolyn, you were going to say something. I did.
I'm thinking about because feelings are probably together by my perspective on the world and perspective or sometimes also call it worldviews are so deep and so holistic. They affect the whole life. So I live in them. I'm part of it. It's my story. And everyone has their own worldview and perspective. And sometimes, especially if we come together in the diversity of our family, I realize how different perspectives, even though we are Brahmins, how different perspectives can be. And so it's like each one is talking about a totally different reality. And then there are feelings, there is a kind of appreciation but they're living in a totally different world, and they can see that and they say, okay, what to do? How can we get closer into the common world? And I know that indigenous peoples, they do this by dialogue and sharing and listening to one another, but it's not always a pleasant because it also takes a lot of time. But also this can be the reason for conflicts or expectations or misunderstanding or so on. And it's like it's very difficult to get a common ground because we have been in these worlds. Do you have experienced that?
Yes, I do. But you know, one thing I feel is that what is the Murli? God is sharing his perspective. And in a way, he's offering us to think like he does, have a perception like him. Now, we're all number-wise, and that word number-wise is one of the most fascinating words. But I honestly believe if I have the soul consciousness, the humility, the purity to let go the attachment to my perception of things and really, I really believe the Murli is an education to think like God and see life through his prism. It's a game, it's a drama. Each soul's playing his part. If we think like that, even though we have different sets of sanskaras, we can work together. And this is why I feel feelings are so important, because even though we have different perception of reality, if the feelings are there, it's okay. We can just say, okay, you think this way, I think this way. And it's amazing, you know, my brother, I had an older brother and his wife, they had a big circle of friends. And I used to go to a lot of dinner parties. And driving home, my sister-in-law always used to like to debrief on what happened at the dinner party, you know, the dynamics. And my brother always had a totally different perception. And she always used to say to him, his name was Richard, Richard, did we go to the same dinner party? Because her perception was so different, his perception. And yet they had a good marriage, you know. And I think this is where we have to live in our self-respect and know who I am, but accept others and how they think. It's a huge challenge. And that's where I think if we have detachment, one, and then goodwill, we cannot underestimate the power of good wishes. And this is why I think Baba emphasizes that if you have a different perception with somebody in your body conscious, you'll argue and try to prove to each other that I'm right and you're wrong. But if you're soul conscious and have good wishes, you can just say, okay, we can live together and yet we can think differently. That's life. That's life.
Remember that Daddy Gonzalez once asked how they dealt with conflicts in the beginning, and they must have had, and she just answered, "It's my deep love for Baba. It overpowered everything else. When I thought of him and what he was like, that was the most powerful. I admired that. I didn't feel it the same, but it gave a great hint.
You know, it's so true. I've turned myself off again. It's so true, because I sit in the RC meetings. You know, we've had the RC meetings for 36 years now, so we know each other quite well. And you know, there's quite vibrant arguments. But I don't find bad feeling behind them. We have it's normal to think differently and see things differently. It's just that when my body conscious ego takes it as, oh, you think that and I think this, I take it as because my lack of self-respect, I take it as a dislike or a rejection because you think in a different way. But when I live in self-respect, fine, you think like that, fine, it's okay. And I love Baba's principle, master and child. We all give our opinions. We should express, but then once we've expressed, let go and accept the majority. Once even Baba said to me personally, he said, you work with this principle, you know, listen to everybody and go with the majority. And it works, you know, it works. But if someone pushes, it has to be my way. You have to do it this way. And some people get so passionate about what they think. But really, I think if we want to keep unity in the family together, the healthiest thing, I think, is to let go of my ideas. Even if you have a passionate idea, one of the greatest attachments is to my idea, the way I see things. Just have to let it go and accept, you know, what others feel.
Sometimes it's difficult to see the origin of the root of my feelings. If I react to situation or people, do you think if you need it, we identify the origin of the root, we know the feeling we just have is enough, and how to keep elevating feelings towards myself and others.
Yeah, you know, in a simplistic way, the origin of all those feelings which are not so comfortable or painful, or they all come from a false sense of who I am. It's, you know, sometimes the image I have these days is the soul is like a tree. And a tree, or the inner world, is like a tree. So it has a seed, a trunk, branches, and leaves. The thoughts are my leaves. A big tree, look at these big trees here, they will probably have 100,000 leaves. So many thoughts. And when we have negative thoughts, bad thoughts, we try to pluck them out, you know, but just more grow. What is feeding the thoughts are my mental and emotional patterns. We have all these mental and emotional patterns. A lot of us are perfectionists. Unless things are perfect, we feel uncomfortable. Or a lot of us have paranoia. We keep reading into situations, things that aren't happening. What is feeding the branches is the trunk. The trunk is my subconscious. It's like my sanskaras. But the seed and the roots is the soul, the self. And Baba's method is not to work on the thought level so much, even the mental, emotional patterns. When you change the seed of body consciousness is false. When I sow a false seed in my inner world, it grows a false trunk, false branches, false thinking. Everything's corrupted. The whole inner world's corrupted. But when I go and I sow the seed of being a non-physical, eternal being, and I just go so deep, that starts to grow healthy trunk, healthy branches. And that's where Baba goes to the essence, rather than going to the superficial or the end product. The thoughts are the end product. Sometimes it's good to know why I have certain feelings, but that almost always comes back to my relationship with myself. And obviously the flavors of body consciousness that are coloring my perception. You know, I honestly believe we're superficial in soul conscious practice. We're quite superficial. We know it and we believe it, but the Yajna spent 14 years of intense focus on soul consciousness. And that's why I believe everyone felt the daddy's vibration was different. Did you feel there was some vibration so soft, sweet, pure, clean? Because they did the work. They really did the work on soul consciousness. And to me, if you do that true work, everything begins to fall in place. We will have good wishes. We will be more detached. It's a natural consequence. Even for me, I've done so many experiments in the laboratory of my mind on aspects of soul consciousness, and I've done them for months at a time. One of my favorites, you know, I said to Didi Manmohini once, I said, Didi, who met Didi Manmohini here? Yeah, what an incredible soul she was. Such a yogi. And I said to Didi, Baba tells us to make so many efforts. A lot of Brahmins have stress thinking which effort to make, you know. What do you think is the main effort? Straight away, she said, to be incorporeal. I really began to think about it. And you know, over months, as I went about my day, I kept practicing not to just chant like a mantra. What's the feeling? The feeling of being non-physical in a physical form, in this physical drama. And I found the more I felt being incorporeal, I felt uninfluenced by this drama, uninfluenced by behaviors. I felt naturally detached. It was a natural consequence when I'm really living as an incorporeal being. And I've done experiments on being eternal, so many experiments that try to fathom so that you really build a foundation of soul consciousness. That's, you know, that's the real work of this life, I believe. Yes.
I just want to mention, once when I came from Mahaviran, I had the feeling I wanted to resolve something, and I sat for 3 days, just like this. When I get up, I thought I get out of this feeling. There was something little, like something on the floor, and it was so beautiful. So I was so amazed for my vision of something. It was amazingly beautiful. And so completely different
Perception, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all know, don't you, when you're happy, what's your vision like? You see people, you have good feelings for people, and if you become unhappy, everything becomes dark. But it feels so real, but it's not real, it's a creation. It's so deceptive, isn't it, those things? Yes.
We said, in order to keep harmony in family, one is sometimes for in the best way, it is necessary to let go of old ideas. And what is the best way? If you prove yourself, you ask your inner voice again and again, and you come to the same aim, to the same position. How do you feel this? And in the one way, from the perspective from outside, it seems that just the same opinion, but from the inner way, the perspective is a permanent distinction on the situation. How do you feel? Is it clear?
I'm afraid I'm sorry, I haven't quite grasped the question. Sorry.
What is the best way to ja. Es gibt Situationen, wo man eine Entscheidung trifft. Man hat eine Entscheidung zu treffen, ja, und du hast ja gesagt, manchmal ist es wichtig, um auch die Harmonie in einer Situation, in einer Gruppe zu wahren, es liegt das auch an seinen eigenen Wegen, was die Person ist, ja, um das zu wahren.
You have to make a decision, and situations like that. And if the inner voice is always saying the same, it might be not the opinion of others, but your inner voice says who is.
Das ist jetzt nur, genau diese Entscheidung zu können, immer wieder auch meine innere Stimme hören. Ich gehe davon aus, dass die innere Stimme auch mit Baba verbunden ist. Ich spüre da hinein. Ich komme aber immer wieder zu diesem einen Ergebnis, das ist das, wo die Folge dahinter steht, das ist genau das für mich die Wahrheit.
Should I do what so the majority is thinking, for example, or should I stick to my inner voice, which I think is connected to Baba, which has another opinion? For
Yeah,
example, says no.
yeah. You know, I think usually, I think we have to let go some things and go with the majority. Because, you know, I will tell you, once Daddy Prakashmani was in Melbourne, and there was a brother you may remember from San Francisco. Who remembers Brother Harold? Harold from San Francisco. Anyway, he was quite a famous psychologist in America. And he'd done a study on a lot of New Age movements, what they call NRMs, New Religious Movements. And the study is a long story, so I'll make it brief, showed most of them disintegrate after 20, 25 years. They start, they grow huge, they all fight and they collapse. So common, the majority, whether they're Hindu or Christian, whatever. And he said to Dadiji, why have the Brahma Kumaris kept going? And you know what Dadiji said? She said, when I have a big decision to make, this is maybe in the 1980s, I consult all the main daddies and dadas, what they think. And even if, you know, out of 20 or 25, 3 or 4 don't agree, I wait for them to come on board. So I think she was building unity in that way, you know, that we work together, we move together as a group. And she said that if the majority thinks one way and I think in a different, I will go with the majority. And in a way, it's like, you know, and sometimes I think it's a healthy thing sometimes to let go, or even I can say to the group, I feel this, but because you all feel this, I respect that and I will let you. But so you're still being true to yourself, even if you have a different opinion. The other thing is, sometimes to ask someone who you really trust, who's an objective thinker. In other words, tell them what you're thinking, somebody you really feel has an objective view of things. This is what I'm feeling, everyone else feels something different. In other words, to get honest feedback from somebody, because sometimes it's a real thing, but sometimes we have attachment to some ideas or something I feel we should happen. And it's really good to have a friend or two that you can bounce your ideas off, to get a very detached, objective feedback. That's why Dadiji was so clever keeping this whole yagya together, because she would hear everyone's views. And even rather than saying 75% agree, so I'll just push ahead, she waited for that 25% to come on board. So she took the whole family together. And that's why I think she was a phenomenal leader in that way, the way she carried unity forward. Yeah.
I remember that Anthony once said when there was a difference of theme, subject and relationships, he would always go with the relationships.
Yes, she will. Yeah, Daddy was so caring. So Daddy was so caring. So is there anyone who hasn't said something, asked something you would like to?
Some new student asked, why is all the Brahmins not changed? Why we are changing Sanskrit?
Can you repeat?
Student, yeah, asking why all Brahmins no change attitude, behavior, why we are changed, and then they are already bad and really are coming out. They are coming, they are no changing.
They watch that there's no change in all Brahmins.
I think as I understood, I think she's saying when new Brahmins come and they see that old Brahmins haven't changed, and they think, well, what's that about? Is that correct? Yeah. You know, I think that there's so many wonderful examples in the Brahmin family that we need to focus on rather than, because sometimes we see a weakness in someone to justify my own lack of effort. It's absolutely true. We are a number-wise family. That's not a judgment. It's not a judgment. We're different. And some, you know, move forward a lot. Some move forward, stop, move forward, stop. Some don't. You know, treading water in Brahmin life. Everyone is different. But everyone is Baba's child and everyone has value. And I think that, you know, for me, when some say that to me about old Brahmins, I say, well, you come along for 30 years and see how you are after 30 years. They need so much courage to face sanskaras and deal with so many things because the whole world is complaining about everything. And what are we doing? We've said, okay, Baba, I will change myself to make a new world. And that's not so easy sometimes. And I would say everyone changes, but some sanskaras remain incredibly deep. It needs deep work to shift some sanskaras. I feel a lot of respect for old Brahmins, whatever they may appear to be like. Is anyone else? Yes. Personally, for me, Baba is Baba. I never think, oh, now Baba's my mother, now Baba's my father. And Baba is Baba. And it's a natural thing in situations. Sometimes you feel you really need to be sort of cared for. So in a natural way, the motherly side of Baba comes through. Sometimes you need power. And so the father or the authority comes through. You know, sometimes Baba's the lover of the soul. But I don't think, oh, now Baba is this, now Baba. It's just Baba is Baba to me. But it's true that I think what I've observed is the Brahmins who have all relationships with Baba are the ones who really progress. And my observation is that when you do have all relationships with one Baba, you win Baba's trust. And Baba knows wherever he puts you, he's the main influence on the soul. And I find that if you have that sanskara, always opportunities come to move forward and grow spiritually. So, yeah. Okay, so it's 1:05, so should we have a break for lunch? And Carolyn, what this afternoon, do you want to?
Thinking of this moment, this second year, when I led through this very
You know, I think I enjoy most just family chit chat. Personally, more than classes and things, just open conversation about our life. This incredible life that we're leading. it's nice just to sit around and discuss it. So, mm. Mm. Yeah, let's have silence, shall we? Just for 3 minutes. Nice idea. Mm. If you want to give drishti to anyone opposite you, give and take of drishti, feel free. Mm. Thank you, Gudrun. Thank you.
We wanted to explain this card thing at the end of the envelope.
Yeah, that's right. I just